if I had more money, I'll be happy.
Right.
Well, why not just be happy now?
Yeah, just be happy.
So yeah, I think that idea of past lives can be helpful for people in the same way dreams can, in that you can, if our soul has been on this journey and it's been learning lessons in all these different lifetimes, that like to be able to sort of jump to a different life and go, look, what were the lessons from that life? It doesn't serve me to take on your energy, and it doesn't serve you to take on mine.
Right.
Like, I need to have my energy so that I can be fully me and who I am. And you need all of your energy to be fully you.
So, welcome back to Raise Your Connection. This is episode 6, I believe. Don't get mad at me if that's not right, but I'm pretty sure it is. So today I have with me my wonderful guest, Cindy Carlton. Thank you, Cindy, for coming on board.
Yes.
So Cindy, we met at a networking group.
Yes.
Shout out to I Take the Lead.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was enthralled by your presentation and your presence and everything when I first met you. And I was like, we got to have a conversation. And we never did have a conversation.
I know. So I was so excited when you reached out, because I'm like, yes, we get to have a conversation.
Nice. So just to let everybody know, so your business is called Facilitated Health and Healing.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so you are an intuitive healer and facilitator, or intuitive healer facilitator.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Craniosacral therapist.
Yes.
Okay. Energy healer.
Yes.
All right. And licensed massage therapist.
Yes.
So on top of all that, you can get a massage too.
Yes.
I love it.
Or part of it.
I love it.
Yes.
Oh, you can break it up into like...
it's usually, I would say the majority of my clients right now come in for some sort of body work.
Mm-hmm.
So craniosacral therapy is considered massage in some realms.
Oh.
And so when they come in, there's a lot of time that we're either doing what looks like a therapeutic massage. So say you walked into my treatment room while I was giving a session to somebody, and you'd be like, oh, Cindy's just doing a deep tissue massage. The person on the table is not going to say that. They're going to go, that is not what Cindy just did to me, right? Like their experience, usually their feedback is that they went to a different realm, or they got into a deeper meditation, or we just worked through like having a coaching session and getting a massage at the same time. Like there's just so many different things that are happening. So even though to the outside eye looking in, it's like, oh, Cindy's just doing a craniosacral session, or she's just doing a deep tissue massage. It's like the person, if you were to talk to the client, they would say that is not what just happened. And a lot of my clients actually have their massage therapists that they go to. They don't even consider me a massage, even though that may be what we're doing, even though they may be getting body work as part of the energy movement or whatever we're working on. And so, it's
that's amazing. Actually.
So I keep the license because I feel like the somatic, the body is such a key piece to the work that people are doing and moving energy through their bodies. And I know that's a whole nother, like, it's a huge topic, like energy.
It is a huge topic.
And how we hold it and how we absorb it or not absorb it or move it. And so it's like getting that in and out of the tissues. For some people, it's about actually having to rub the tissue to move the energy in the body. Whereas for other people, it's just a matter of, in craniosacral therapy, we do a really soft touch, and it's all about how, if I could go lighter and just tune in and meld to the person and their tissues, and so that the tissues feel like, oh, somebody's holding me right now. Maybe it's safe for me to release this energy, or maybe it's safe for me to release this trauma or this thing I've been holding on to in the tissues.
Oh, so the body can kind of sense that.
Yes.
And relax or release
Yes.
or whatever it may be,
Yes.
depending
absolutely.
on how it's being touched?
Yes. Yeah.
Ah.
So in my craniosacral therapy training, they talked about, the way traumas are held in the body. And so, of course, a lot of times we think of trauma and we think of like maybe a physical trauma.
Yeah, that's what I think about.
Yeah, an auto accident, getting beat up or tripping and falling, or any of the number of ways that we have a physical trauma. But truthfully, we get traumas from verbal attacks, whether it's a verbal abuse or it's just somebody really angry at you. You think about as a child, your mom yelling at you for something, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like those are like verbal traumas, and they can be emotional traumas, and they can be spiritual traumas. They can come in different ways. And when there potentially is a physical trauma in the body, or there is sort of a seed of something in us, though all of those sort of waves of traumatic energy just get stuck. And so I love telling the story. When I was in craniosacral therapy training in a class, like they were working on my shoulder, my left shoulder. I had like 3 therapists all working with me. And all of a sudden I was like falling off the table, and they were like unwinding my arm. And this memory came back of me as a kid riding a bike. It was the first time, 2 wheels without my training wheels. And I was so excited. And my mom yelled at me from across the street, like, be careful, or I don't even remember what she said. She just yelled at me. And I looked over my shoulder to see where she was and what was happening. And I ran into a light pole on the left side. Right. So riding my bike for the first time, super excited, mom yelling at me for whatever reason. And then
she's probably saying, watch out for that pole.
Right. Whatever. Right. Possibly. Yeah. And, it was like, in that moment, here I was in, my 30s and realizing I had restriction in my left shoulder, had no idea why. And then to all of a sudden have this memory of being a child in that moment, and like thinking, and who knows what over the years between that, the 20 years between those two happenings, of all the different things that may have just been like being thrown at me, or me, energetically running into poles all the time and having it all get stuck in that shoulder. And so then there I am getting treatment from people holding me in the space, and my arm's like, okay, I'm ready to let go of all that now. I'm ready to unwind it. I'm ready to like release. Now that you've acknowledged it, you know it, and you can let go of it. And so.
Wow. So did you have any kind of conscious pain there, or stiffness or anything, or like?
Yes and no. It was like range of motion. So it was
range of motion?
Like, so like in massage school, they teach us like, this is your appropriate range of motion for shoulder and elbow and knee, hip. And my left shoulder, every time, like I was the person that was like, okay, can you see how Cindy can move her right arm this way and her left arm, it doesn't go as far. So it was like, I got to be an example in many ways there. And so, but since then, since that treatment on my left shoulder, like I don't have the same restriction, like it released.
Wow.
And so it was like the range of motion on the left side is, just fine compared to the right side, but for a long time there, I was like, oh yeah, my left shoulder doesn't have the same range of motion as my right one. Just doesn't, and I didn't think anything of it because it didn't hurt.
Right. It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, it wasn't really a big deal, just like sort of an awareness. And so I know for me, going to massage school was like a life-changing experience, because just opened my eyes to so many things that everyday people, before I went to massage school, we go along and we don't even know how, like, we have these tissues in our body that connect every part of us. There's that whole song about, the ankle bones connected to the knee bones.
Oh yeah.
That
I remember that from grade school.
Right.
Yeah.
And we think about that song and we just think about looking at a skeleton and how they're all connected, but there's actually these tissues in our body, is fascia is what it's called. And these fascial tissues that make those connections. And so it's like, I could take your arm and and work on your wrist, and you could feel a release going up your elbow and into your shoulder and potentially like into your chest, just from me doing a fascial release at your wrist and hand. And, you know, and I've had people that I've worked on where I'm at their foot and they're like, oh my gosh, Cindy, I can feel that all the way. I'm like at their right foot, I can feel it in my left shoulder, you know, and just because there's that line of fascia. And so,
I've done that by accident. Like maybe I feel something over here and I'll like put pressure on it.
Yeah.
And I might feel it over here somewhere.
Yes. Yes.
I'm totally aware of that.
Same thing. And
Okay.
and finding those lines in the body. And so physically, there's those lines, but then we're holding energy in those lines too. And you had Dr. Barbara on, right?
Yeah. I was going to cross.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. We also know Dr. Barbara.
Yes. We know Dr. Barbara together.
From networking.
Yes, from the same lead, same group.
Yes. So what's great is that in Chinese medicine, they talk about the meridians and they talk about those energy lines. And it's like there's multiple energy systems in the body. You know, the Chinese medicine meridians are just one of them. And so it's like looking at that too. It's like as you're releasing these fascial tensions or these lines in the body, it's like where is the energy pooling? Where is there restrictions in those as well, and releasing that? And it gives you more energy, lets you source more, lets you be able to like feel more free or expansive in your body, and therefore in your mind and your nervous system. And
it's an expanse.
It's just all of it. Yeah. It just builds upon each other. Yeah.
No, I'm totally with that. I'm absolutely with it. Let me ask you this. Is there any factuality when I've heard people say they have a headache and then they do this, they put pressure on that?
So again, that I know that's a Chinese medicine, and also there's some energy medicine sort of type things that talk about that, right? And so yes, and what it is it's a point there, and then there's again that sort of energetic fascial line. That doesn't do anything for me.
It doesn't do anything for me either.
It doesn't do anything for me.
Me either.
And I've had migraines out of life. And in fact, that was why I got into craniosacral therapy, is that I've had migraines since I was about 18 months old. I was diagnosed at age 5, went through the whole CAT scan.
You can have migraines at that age?
Yes, I had migraines. Like my mom traced them back to about 18 months. They finally put me through all the testing and diagnosis at 5.
Man.
And at that time they're like, okay, if she's had too much sun, not enough sleep, or too much milk, like that's probably her triggers. And it's the late 70s, like now you tell a mom that and they're like, okay, no more dairy in your diet. We're gonna and so totally different. And so, so a lifetime of migraines in massage school. One of my teachers, I go into class and I'm like, I don't think I can stay. I'm like, I'm hurting. And she's like, get on the table. And she did this like magic craniosacral thing.
Your teacher did?
This is my teacher.
She's like, you're not missing class.
Right. Get on the table. And so she like did this thing for me. And I got off the table. I'm like, no, I still feel like I'm going to throw up. And I'm like, I'm going to go. She's like, okay. And I left, and I tell you, my migraines before that was like dark room, lights out, like just leave me alone. And the next day I would have what I called a migraine hangover. Like you literally feel like you like drank too much the night before, and you just feel awful the next day. Yeah, it's no fun. And people that have suffered migraines, they're going to understand, but like it feels awful. Well,
sounds awful.
Yeah, it is, because it takes and those people that suffer migraines over several days, like I know that too. Anyway, I get home maybe about 45 minutes later, and I walk in the door and I realize the headache's gone.
And how long after was it?
Maybe an hour after she gave me this craniosacral treatment.
And it never happened that way before?
No. Every other time, I would like all day, it wasn't, I wouldn't be hungry and potentially vomiting, just nausea, and just like, I literally thought I was going to walk in the door and go straight to bed. And like maybe hopefully wake up the next day without a headache. That was my thought.
Was like aiming high.
Right. And expecting the hangover. And I walked in the door, and I was hungry, So no more nausea.
Yeah.
I was like, literally, like, I wanted food. I didn't have the pain. And I actually felt a little energized, like, you know, because it wears on you. It's like this pain, you know. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. And, you know, just I ended up going to bed after eating something and no migraine hangover the next day.
Huh. So that was it. After she did that, you were like, okay.
I'm like, what is this, right? And so she that teacher taught a class through massage school, and I took it, and then I went on to Upledger Institute. So Dr. John Upledger is known as the founder of craniosacral therapy, or at least the version of it that I know.
Okay.
And so I went through, I just devoured those classes through the Upledger Institute.
I bet, because you were like, this relief brought me so much relief.
Yes.
I got to know more about it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely. And so that became, even though, you know, I was still doing, I did a lot of running and biking. And so I was doing some sports stuff, you know, with my massage practice, like could do, sports and therapeutic. And I worked closely with a chiropractor and seeing some of his patients. And so, you know, I can do all of the therapeutic stuff, but and everything is always the craniosacral therapy, like always blending that in with everything that I've been doing. And through that, I had people coming up to me and going, what kind of energy work are you doing? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, it's like, okay, sure. They're like, oh no, Cindy, like I've worked with Reiki masters. I've had massages all over the world. I've had, you know, like literally having
they went into the experts.
Right. They had been to people that were really amazing. And, you know, and here I was, you know, only a few years into my massage practice, and they're like, I don't know what you're doing, but like, I've never experienced anything like this before. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll just keep doing it.
And so you had no idea what you were really...
No. I mean, I had been exposed to Reiki, but I never trained. I just didn't feel called to go trained as a Reiki master. And so when people ask me, do you do Reiki? And
I've heard of Reiki. Now, what is that?
It's an energy modality.
Okay.
It comes out of Japan.
Okay.
And it's about, and you might get this wrong, because again, I'm not a Reiki master.
Don't hold it against us.
Don't hold it. You know, it's like, this is where, you know, like Dr. Barber's a Reiki master, so it's different. Right. But it's an energetic modality that uses the energy of the universe. And so there's a lot of intent to it. And so it's like, cool. But for whatever reason, I wasn't called to go train and learn all the little symbols and things that they do in Reiki. And so, but I still, like, it had been exposed to it. I worked with like coaches, you know, who do intuitive stuff, you know, through massage school, and with like running, you know, I was using vision, you know, self-development stuff and growth. And so like, I knew energy. I was always excited when people would see things when I was on their tables or getting treatment from other people. But the idea that I was doing something was like, I don't know.
It wasn't a conscious.
It wasn't like an intent, but the more I got that, the more I started paying attention. Like, what am I doing? What is coming up for me? And, you know, and I would keep quiet about it. I wouldn't talk about it. And it's cool, because now I work with massage therapists and body workers who like me might have been getting visuals, or might have been getting information, might have been like picking up on things about a client or a session. But because of our training, we just kept quiet about it, because we're like, I don't know where I can go. I don't feel comfortable talking about it. But it's like, you know, through my own sort of self-development journey, got more comfortable and like asking questions of my clients and going, hey, you know, what's going on here in the shoulder? Oh, that's funny you ask. I'm remembering the story about X, Y, and Z.
Kind of like what you
went
through with your shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's like, you know, and then, you know, me feeling the rapport with a client to be able to go, well, you know, I'm getting this visual, like this happened to you. And they'd be like, oh my God, how did you know that? Right? Like, and so, you know, am I psychic? Am I telepathic? Am I like, okay, let's play with that. And it was actually after my first son was born. He'll be 10 in August. And he was about a year old. And a friend of mine was talking about seeing this intuitive healer. And I'm like, oh my God, I've always wanted to go to like a psychic intuitive healer. Like, it's like, it's time.
Is that what it's synonymous to psychic?
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I know. It's like, it's just been in probably the last 5 years or so, people are changing.
They changed the term.
That psychic, because before, we think of the old 80s psychic hotline things, right? And you're like, or the crystal ball, psychic reading type things. And so you're like, all right, how much? Yes, exactly. How real is that?
You just gave me the image of the crystal ball.
Right, exactly. Do you see me? This is over a crystal ball. Like, let me look into your future, Marcus. So when you say psychic, that's what people get. So psychics, that are really truly doing, they will use the terms intuitive healer, intuitive seer. And so an intuitive. Because what are they doing? They're sort of intuiting energy about you and what may happen for you, or what may have happened for you before. But I was finally at this place, like, I'm ready to go work with an intuitive healer and see what they have to say about me. Like, I want to hear what they have to say. And so I did. And this woman, who is now a dear friend and was a mentor, and we trained together, she pretty much sat there and told me things about myself that I had only put in a journal, like maybe 4 years earlier. I had written in a journal, never even had told like my husband at the time, like didn't tell anybody. Like I had gone out for a run. I would go on these runs and get these like sort of downloads and these visuals. And then, I come home and journal about them, because I was like, this is crazy stuff. Like, nobody else is going to believe any of these things. Like, why would I tell anybody that I used to be a high priestess and a different,
Oh, we got to go into that.
Oh, yeah, we will.
Hold on to that.
But at the same time, like, I'm like, hey, Marcus, nice to know you. And I used to be a high priestess. Like, you're going to go, all right.
I wouldn't do that. That wouldn't be my reaction. I'd be like, oh, tell me more about
I tell you more. You would. But somebody else is like,
of course, they're going to be like,
sure.
What's wrong with this lady?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so, here I sat with this woman, and I told her about, where I was and my relationships and my work and stuff. And she starts telling me about how she's like, yeah, you've been a healer through all these different lives, and these are the things that have happened to you. And I'm like, literally, this is me. Like,
you wrote it down in your journal.
Yeah, in my journal, like 4 years earlier. And I was like, did somebody like go find that old journal and give it to you before I showed up?
And she just casually
casually like said, yeah, it's like, this is what you're dealing with. And you have this this like healer's witch, we now call it a witch wound, and it's like, let's help you realize that you're now safe in your body, and that you're not going to get, put on, hung,
burned at a stake.
Yeah, all those things. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so it was really incredible. So her and her husband, they were teaching classes on, they called them energy tools. And other people call them psychic tools. But but it's using energy, and it's like, how do we ground? It's like, what's that question? What does that mean to ground, right? Like, what does that look like? In electricity, grounding, you think of a grounding rod, right?
That's what I think about,
right? And that's what you're doing. That's pretty much what you're doing. Is you're letting your body be this sort of like lightning rod for energy. So instead of it like zapping you, like that kind of thing, but letting the energy move through you and down to the ground. So you like give it to the earth, and so you allow it. So by walking somebody through a grounding meditation or a grounding exercise, it's really just letting them feel their own energy, their own spirit, their own soul connect through their body to the earth, because we're 3D beings and of the earth. And so if we can remind our bodies that we're of the earth, we can be more embodied and more inhabited.
Adam was made from the dirt.
And so connect yourself to the dirt.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So the grounding thing. So first off,
a couple things.
Dr. Barbara, she told me about that grounding mat. I still haven't done it, Dr. Barbara, because I'm determined to go outside with my bare feet I just want to go somewhere where there's not dog poop everywhere.
Yeah.
That's all. But so is that kind of related, the whole grounding mat thing?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So the grounding mat is like a physical electrical sort of manifestation, and so but like we can do that with our mind.
Okay. And so that's the other thing I was going to say is
right.
You did a grounding thing at our networking group.
Yeah.
And so you did it for everybody. So I'm wondering if that's something, if people were watching, they could get
absolutely. You want to do it?
Yeah. Totally.
Let's do it right now.
All right. Let's do it.
So Marcus, for you in this room, and if you're listening, watching, this is for you too. Just go ahead and either close your eyes if you're in a safe place. If you're driving and you don't want to close your eyes, but or you can have a soft gaze. And we're just going to start by taking a breath into our bodies. Feeling it in the room right now. And first I want you to just notice where you're sitting, where your tail or your bottom is on the chair, or if you're listening, maybe you're standing, where your feet are. And then envision that there's this root, whether you like trees or a waterfall for water, or even a rope or a cord or a portal that starts at your tail and is a little bit wider than your hips. And it goes straight down into the ground. It goes through the chair, it goes to the floor, it goes into the concrete and into the earth. And if it were like a tree, the roots, the fingers, the tendrils, they're reaching down deep into the earth and really wide. And then when they reach the center of the earth, those fingers or tendrils, they wrap themselves around the earth. Good deal. And for right now, I want you to envision that we're going to set this grounding to release. So allowing the body to release any energies that may not be serving it in this moment, that don't actually belong to you. Maybe you're holding on to energies from another person, another place, another thing. You can just allow those to drop down through this cord, through this grounding into the earth, giving it to like the center of the earth. And right now, because we're giving this energy away, let me bring up a couple energies to source, to bring into your body. First, you can envision energy coming up through the soles of your feet from the earth. Maybe you can feel yourself standing in that grass or on the sand at the beach, and letting that earth energy come up through the feet, the legs, up into the hips, the belly, letting it come up the spine, down the arms, around the head. But as that earth energy is coming up through the body, it's going to support the physical body. It's supporting your bones and your muscles and the fascia and your organs. And as it sweeps through, it's gonna sweep out what's no longer serving, and that can go down that grounding. So we loop this earth energy up through the feet, through the body, and let it go down and release out that grounding cord. And I'm going to bring in another source of energy down through the top of our heads, our crowns. As energy is coming from the cosmos, we call it cosmic energy. And this energy supports the spiritual body, emotional body, energetic body. Comes down to the crown, comes down along the back channels on the spine. At the tail, it wraps up into the belly, and it swirls with the earth energies in the belly. And then this cosmic energy comes up through the energy centers. For some people, they think of them as the chakras. Through the root, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus, letting it come up to the heart and clearing all of the energies in the heart systems, up to the throat, clearing any restrictions we have in the way we communicate and voice, letting that energy come down through our arms to our hands, and then also up through our head, our perceptor wheel, the way we see, the way we hear, the way we smell, the way we taste, the way we touch. And then this cosmic energy comes up through the head, comes down and cascades around along the body in our auric field, in that personal bubble that we have around us. And then that aura also gets tucked into the grounding. So as this cosmic energy has been coming through and giving us fresh energy for our energetic body, it's sweeping out what's old, and we get to give that to the earth as well. And then we can just take another deep breath. And then come back to being present.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Just thinking about the energy moving.
Yes.
You feel it.
Yeah.
You feel
absolutely. For those people that aren't in the room, hopefully you can feel it wherever you are, but this room just shifted completely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Just the energy of it, the energy I feel in my body, the energy I feel from Marcus is just completely shifted. So
yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You should. I feel like if you're not already doing this, you need to be. Maybe your potential clients or your leads or whatever. You need to do an audio.
It's on my list to do.
It is on your list.
It's on my list. I would love. Yes, I mean that's just that one little basic sort of energy meditation that I just walked us through is like one of many that I will sometimes take clients through when they're on my table or even sitting in my room. Sometimes people don't even get on the table when they come to see me. It's just all conversation and moving energy. And so, and I do remote sessions too. I do, last week I talked to somebody in Hawaii and somebody in North Carolina. And so, I can do this with anybody. And, but yeah, that's on my list, is to either have like YouTubes or audios of these things. For people.
I'm thinking I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Oh yeah, please do.
You know how you can have somebody, like whenever we meet somebody at a networking group or whatever, when you're running into people who may be interested in your services, you can be like, hey, go to this link, have your little QR code and say, you fill out this questionnaire and you ask them relevant questions so you can kind of customize how you would, if that's a thing.
Right. Oh yeah. No, I've known people to do that. I hadn't really thought about that idea of like, okay, follow this QR code and I will send you a quick
and then you can give them
personal little meditation. Oh yeah.
And then bam, you got them.
Because I've done that. I have done that with clients too. I've had clients reach out and go, Cindy, it's like, I'm really having a hard time. I'm like, all right, I will send you an audio of a meditation that you can do to clear that energy.
There you go.
Cool. Thank you for that idea.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I love it.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, I'm cleared out. So one thing I'll say is, the whole like emptying the negative energy. Right?
Yes.
I guess you didn't really say negative.
No, I didn't.
But
say negative.
Emptying things that you feel like need to be emptied.
And no longer serving.
Right. It lightens you.
Yes.
It lightens.
Yes. Because we don't realize how many things we're carrying around. Like, as we go through a day or a week or our life, like it's like we have this like backpack, and it's an analogy that I use sometimes, and it's like, I'm thinking about this situation, and so that's kind of like a pebble in our backpack from that particular situation, even though it's like not really serving us to be pondering it or like thinking it over or like, ruminating on it. Or maybe our partner is going through something, and so we're kind of worrying over them or trying to help them in some way, or trying to get, like, I have kids, like that's one of my things. Like I'm like, I don't want you to feel hurt, right? Like and so it's another boulder in my backpack thinking about my kids and what I need to do. Or maybe, people are having questions about financial issues or work issues. I mean, those are all like more stones and rocks that we carry on the backpack. And the truth is like, how much of it is actually ours to look at, process, keep, and how much of it actually belongs to your boss or to your coworkers or to your spouse or your children. Like, it's like, it doesn't serve us, doesn't serve me to take on your energy, and it doesn't serve you to take on mine. Right. Like, I need to have my energy so that I can be fully me and who I am. And you need all of your energy to be fully you. And so for us to be like needing that or feeling a need to take on other people's stuff. And sometimes we do it subconsciously. We don't even realize.
I think it's probably mostly subconscious.
Mostly, yeah. But a lot of times it comes out, for me in just conversation and like listening to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're carrying around all this stuff from work, and it's like, that's not actually your responsibility or your issue, or,
You know what?
Yeah,
now that you put it like that,
yeah,
that's very common.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Absolutely. So it's like, and because it's subconscious, it just sits there. And once you sort of are able to get into a place of observation or have some, and this is why I use the word facilitation in both the title of my work, and then, as an intuitive healing facilitator, and is that it's like, I'm not here to fix you or to like, let me take that off of you, Marcus, and do something. It's really to facilitate your own system. To be a bit of maybe a conduit, or to be to point out, hey, I'm noticing this, and you're, notice you have that piece of lint on your shoulder, right? So you can do this with it. And so that really is what it is like, hey, I'm noticing that you're carrying this energy around from this thing. It's like, is it really serving you to do that? And for the subconscious mind to go, oh gosh, they're finally acknowledging this thing that we really don't need to be holding on to, but they keep consciously bringing it in as something, as an energy, and helping the body to release that and to.
So that's right up my alley, because I'm a big fan of Carl Jung.
Yes.
And that's essentially the core of what his studies were about, was going into the unconscious world and confronting all the things that need to be confronted about you, so you can be at balance.
Balanced. Yeah. And it's about inner work, and and a lot of times, people show up and they're like, so and so did this and so did that, and and there's all this energy around what's outside of us, and it's like stopping and taking a moment to go, well, how are they mirrors for what's inside of you? Like, why are they showing up that way? What is it in that they're saying or that they're doing that is really pointing out something in you that you need to look at? And
projection, right?
Yes. Yeah. And and it's like, I was just having this conversation yesterday with my partner, because he also does healing work, and we get into like deep energy conversations. But it is that it's like, it's, when I have an issue with another person, it's not about trying to fix them. It never is. It can't be. I can't, but that's what we try to do. Well, if so-and-so would just talk to me in the right way, if they would just do their job, if they would just, whatever.
Oh, that's what's wrong with society.
Yeah, right? Yes.
Holy moly.
Yes. But if you were to go, well, what is it inside of me that feels the need that they need to do that?
Right.
What is it inside of me that feels like, gosh, I wish my mother would just give me more love. I don't know. Yeah. Mom, if you're watching this, that wasn't really towards you. It's just an example. So, but but that's it. It's like people, they go, well, so-and-so did me wrong. And if they would change, then I would be better. It's kind of like saying, if I had more money, I'll be happy.
Right.
Well, why not just be happy now?
Yeah, just be happy.
Right. Why? Because you're going to find that when you do get more money, that's not really where happiness comes from. So it's all about doing the inner work and all about coming in. And it's like, as we make those shifts inside of us, the dynamic with the other person changes. And I sometimes will lead people through what I call higher soul communications, and where it's really like allowing them to have a conversation with that individual that they have so much energy with. And I was like, well, okay, well then let's bring them in a conversation. They don't have to be here.
Right.
Let's just bring sort of their higher self into the room, and you're able to express to them how you feel and what you want. And there, it's going into sort of a meditation and feeling the energy of that individual there. And it happens a lot of times. I can use an example from my own life with this too, where people will walk out and go, oh my gosh, Cindy, like my partner came up to me and asked me a question that allowed me to actually have the conversation with them that you and I did as a soul to soul conversation. Or like, you know, this energy I had with my sister, I don't think I'll ever be able to talk to her again. And then the next thing I know, 3 months later, they're like, my sister called me and we were able to have a conversation. But you told me, right? Like they can see that by doing this work and, you know, and inside themselves, even if it's calling in another individual, it can affect them. So the story I want to share with that sort of higher soul to soul conversation is my dad had sustained a brain injury back in 2007. It was actually him being hit by the bus, sustained this brain injury. He's still alive. But all of that is what sort of like was the impetus to me reevaluating my life and going to massage school and like starting this journey. So not knowing if my dad was going to live or die, you know, like was my kind of opening to like, what am I doing with my life and where do I want to go?
Okay.
So my dad has this brain injury and it's, you know, 18 years later and he still has a brain injury, but through the years of like learning energy and understanding energy and consciousness, like he's kind of one of my practice subjects as a way. Yeah. But like in early on, like because of the brain injury and because he and I don't get to see each other as often as we like, he lives in Arizona. And when I do see him, he will just start talking and going on and on and on and on and on, which is great, you know? And there are times when I'm like, I gotta go, right? And I would try to say to him, I'm like, Dad, I really got to go. Okay, that's great. And blah, 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 you know, and he'd just keep going. Of course, my dad. Yeah. You know, he's
talking to his baby girl.
I know, right. And I don't want to leave him. So I started this thing where, you know, he was a chief in the Navy and a lot of other people refer to him as chief. And so in my mind's eye, like, I brought him in my mind's eye, like his higher self in and like, hey chief, I really got to go. Can you help me out here? and it was crazy. The first time I did it, I like literally, I swear less than 60 minutes, my dad goes, oh, you know, you got to go. Yeah, I do, Dad, thanks. And I'd been sitting there for 5 minutes going, I got to go. Right. Like, and finally I was like, chief, you know, just in my mind, not out loud.
But probably in your body language too, maybe.
Possibly. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what is it? I mean, those are the conversations I have with people. I'm like, if you want it, we can look at the psychology of it. We can look at the actual, like, you know, what did my body mechanics do? What was the energy I held towards him? But still like that, just that tool of inside of me of going, hey, chief, I gotta go, like allowed this whatever needed to shift for him to make that. And that's like, so cool. And, you know, and I still do that with him. It's like, you know, there are times that I go, there's something happening with my dad. Like I can feel it in my body. Like I'm just, you know, attuned enough to know when there's something up with my dad. And I can do that. I'm like, hey chief, what's up? You know, what do you need? And, you know, and talking to him that way, he's not dad. The higher self version of my dad is not dad. He's chief. Yeah. You know? And so that's how I can communicate with him.
That's so cool.
And and it's really cool. So,
that is awesome. Yeah. You reminded me of about saying how people kind of, the way I think of it is put their problems, the resolution to their problems on the rest of the world as opposed to themselves. Yes. You know, at my 9-to-5 job, I'm in like a sales support role. So I help guys out in the field who are making sales. Okay. And I kind of help them with that, with whatever they might need, I can help them. And this one guy, his goal, he was this close to getting like 100,000 in sales for the month, right? And it was the end of the day on like a Saturday, and that's when the cutoff is, you know? And he was upset because the last call was kind of it was somebody who just they weren't ready. Yeah. And he's like, man, he was texting me. He goes, man, that guy ruined my goal. Oh, he ruined my goal. Yeah. And I said, don't give him that credit. That's all. Funny thing about it, I was going to text back this huge paragraph saying, I don't know if you should be thinking about it in those terms. Going real deep into it. Right. But then I erased it all and I said, don't give him the credit. Right. Perfect. And then 20 minutes later, he goes, you're right. Yeah. He said, I'm the one to blame. And I said, I'm not saying that you should be blamed, but you're definitely in the right ballpark by taking responsibility.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh, it's funny you say that. I've done that too, where I somebody's sent me a text message and I write out this whole thing and then I just erase it and give them 2 sentences and it's exactly what they need. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
I'm notorious for that.
Wherever that channeled information came from. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So
I'm glad you can relate to that.
Yeah.
So the craniosacral. So what does cranial have to do with cranial?
Yeah, exactly. So craniosacral, it was again developed by John Upledger, who was a doctor of osteopathy.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a DO and he actually did surgery. So he was also a surgeon.
Oh.
So what it is there, the cranium
mm-hmm.
and the occiput, which is one of the bones in the cranium, and your sacrum are the only 2 bony connections for the dura or the dura tube that's over your spinal cord.
Okay.
So you got your spinal cord and all the nerves.
Sacrum's down lower, right?
Sacrum's, yeah. So you have your tailbone and then there's kind of a bigger, flatter bone just above your tailbone.
Okay.
So the tailbone hangs off of your sacrum.
Gotcha.
So the occiput and the cranium and the sacrum at the end of your spine are the only 2 bones that this dura tube connect to.
Okay.
And so I know when I work with people, I always let them know that if there's a restriction in your sacrum, in your hips and your pelvic, it can affect your head
mm-hmm.
because of that tube that, it's if this is tight, there can't be any movement. And if that tube that goes along your spinal cord is stuck,
mm-hmm.
it's going to affect your nervous system. It's going to affect because your spinal cord is, your nervous
system.
Right, exactly. So craniosacral, that's where the cranium and sacral come from.
Okay.
Is that. And there is this fluid, it's cerebral spinal fluid.
I know about that. Cerebral spinal fluid.
Yeah.
That's a common thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That goes around your spinal, through the spinal cord and around the brain, so your central nervous system. And in craniosacral therapy, we are trained to tune into the rhythm of that cerebral spinal fluid.
Wow.
So we can, just like you can.
Is it your pulse?
No.
It's not. Okay.
No. So there's your heart.
Uh-huh.
Rhythm. There's your breathing rhythm. In Chinese medicine, they're checking some other pulses,
mm-hmm.
that I'm absolutely fascinated by. I want to know what those are. And then there's this other rhythm in the body that, and Dr. Upledger tells the story. He's passed, but he told the story about assisting in a spinal surgery, and it was his job to hold that dura
mm-hmm.
and to hold it still.
Okay.
Right? Because as a surgeon, you have to have really still hands.
Okay.
And as he was holding the dura and doing his best to hold it still, it would not stay still. It kept wanting to move. Again, because of the fluid and that rhythm,
mm-hmm.
this dura didn't want to move or didn't want to stay still. And so he's like, what is that? What's going on? And so he then moved into all this research about how that rhythm and how it is and how we can affect it. And much like breathing, how we can sort of control our own breathing,
mm-hmm.
we can control that rhythm.
Okay.
So when I work with people, I can actually tune into the rhythm, and then I can hold there's different ways I can do to intend to actually, I'm going to say stop it.
Okay.
As a way of pausing it, as a reset, you could say,
that
and
makes
then
sense.
letting it come back. So I tune into what's the quality, how fast is it moving, how is it getting, does it feel like it's kind of rugged in this direction or not? There's different ways that rhythm can move. Maybe it feels, using breath as an example.
Okay.
Maybe it feels short, or maybe it's
deep breaths.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes there may to me, sometimes I can feel sort of the anxiety
mm-hmm.
of it, or does it feel calm or peaceful, or does it feel really tired? There's just different qualities.
Now, do you have to be directly touching the spine for that?
No.
You don't?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I've practiced being able to tune in because of my work with energy. And I would say I was doing that even before working with my mentors who taught me my energy tools. Was that it's like I can tune into a person and see how that rhythm is working in them without. So even my remote clients, like I'll tune into their bodies and I'll like literally like I'll tell them, I'm like, right now I'm putting my hands like at your sacrum and at your lower belly. And, you know, and I can like tune into what's happening there, the tissues there. And like, you know, and so, yeah, I can do it without my hands on. Of course, when my hands are on a person, it's of course a lot easier to tune into that.
Yeah.
But like, but I can do it anywhere. I could like, you know, I could do it just holding your arms or your legs or at your shoulders. Like I don't have to have it at the head and the sacrum. There is a particular rhythm that the body has for the different places that you go to. And of course, you know, my initial training was like all day, 4-day weekends with the Upledger Institute on how to feel that and what that is. And, you know, and I've had many years of training and practice, but yeah, I mean, just to tuning in.
I've never even heard of being able to tune in to this brain fluid.
Right. Exactly. And then being able to help your central nervous system. I tell people like, it's kind of a reset of the central nervous system. And so craniosacral therapy has had amazing benefits for people who have anxiety. A lot of my clients are on the neurodivergent spectrum somewhere, whether they've been diagnosed with ADHD or autism or anywhere along that line, or even if they haven't been diagnosed along there, like they have qualities in there. And like when we do work together, they're like, oh my gosh, Cindy, I feel calm. My brain feels calm. I don't feel so anxious. And like, I definitely have had clients that will come to see me on a regular basis. They realize like, okay, I need to see Cindy every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks or every 2 weeks, because that's about the time that my body starts to get my panic attacks again, or I get my anxiety thing or whatever. And so it's like really
you reset them,
resetting their body to be able to have function whatever it is that they are trying to do to function. And so, you know, it's multi-layered, as we all are. And so it's like, what is it that's really setting off the nervous system? Is it, you know, past traumas from this life or some past lives? You know, is it something from childhood? Is it something that's happening in the relationships? I mean, you have to take all of that in consideration. And so, you know, I love working with clients who also are working with mental health therapists or with coaches or with other practitioners where they're becoming more aware of things that are happening in their lives. And then I sometimes see myself as a hub for them, as a way of connecting the physical body to those shifts and things that they're becoming more aware of on the energetic and spiritual and emotional, right? So these things that they're working on in their relationship, they come to me, and maybe I'm able to hold the space for their body to cry, whereas they don't feel comfortable doing that with their therapist. Right? Or maybe they are somebody who's like, no, I'll never cry. And then they do. And I focus on the crying because I've been told, Cindy, you made so-and-so cry. It's like, no, I don't never make anybody cry. I just hold space for them to have that. And, you know, and I've had clients too, that anger, right? Like, it's like, what a year, you know, let's let the anger through. Let's let the joy through. Let's integrate this celebration that you have in your life as a replacement for all of these things that you're done with and ready to, you know, maybe you're grieving. And so let's also let there be celebration along with the grief. It's okay to be angry and joyful at the same time. It's okay, you know, and
it's a part of being human.
Right. So, you know, holding space, I mean, everything I do, I always come back to that idea of how we hold space. You know, creating space, whether it's creating a grounded space for us to be able to have a conversation, or whether it's just to be in a place of deep listening with a client. Because again, that goes back to people just want to be heard.
They do. Absolutely.
They want to be seen. They want their thoughts to be validated. They don't want to go in and go, you're wrong.
Yeah. What is that? How does that help anybody?
Right. Yeah. But to be able to go, okay, you know what? You had an experience with an angel. That's awesome.
That's why I am the way I am.
You.
I'm not
Tell me more.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to condemn you for your experience.
Yes. Right.
I want to hear about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So speaking of that,
yeah.
I remember you saying something about, what was it? Oh, you know what? Before that, I'm going to hold on to it. I think it would be interesting for you to go ahead and answer the question I ask people.
Yes.
How do you define connection? I think you're going to have just.
I love this connection.
How do you?
I love it. I love it. I think that's what you're doing and why you're doing this. And that whole question about connection is so on point and on time for where we are.
Thank you.
In all ways.
Thank you.
And I'm going to tell you about connection by talking about it in that way, and the fact that people are looking for community. They're looking for those people who see them and hear them and validate them. They're looking for, through the pandemic and over the last 5 years, people are like really going more within and going, what is my purpose? And what is my meaning, and what am I meant to be doing? And, our children are coming in with a completely different mindset. They're a completely evolved human. That's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yes.
Like we could probably do several of these.
We could.
And we need that connection. We need to be able to reach out, because it's kind of fascinating, because with the internet and social media, we're more globally connected, right? We know what's happening on the other side of the world in an instant.
Yep.
Whereas like 20, 30 years ago, it's like we had to wait for the news to show it, but now like we can tune into it in a moment's notice. But at the same time that's happening, people are becoming more and more isolated.
Yes.
And there's more versions of alone, or being alone, or feeling alone, or loneliness than there ever has been before. Like, even in the sense of like in conversation, somebody can still feel alone.
Yes.
And feel lonely.
Yeah.
And to me, connection is breaking through that and having people realize like, you're not alone.
I love it.
You're not alone. And, let me show you. Like, even if I'm the only person that you feel like can see you,
you're not alone.
You're not alone. And for me to let them know, like, I have all of these other clients that say the same thing, that come in and go, Cindy, you're the only one that I can talk to about this.
Or you can look at me, whatever you want.
Dominika just walked in.
We are.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. This was not very, or not disturbing.
Hey, you'd be proud of me. I asked Cindy the connection question.
Oh, I'm so
because
proud.
I've been forgetting.
And we were
I've been forgetting
for the past 2 episodes.
Well, he just asked, and I pretty much just finished up before you walked in.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it was perfect.
Thank you.
So.
No, but yeah, people. Yes, people knowing that. I guess they're not alone.
Yeah.
And breaking through you're probably great at breaking through that, because you just said your clients are like, oh, I don't feel alone anymore.
Right. Or that they realize, again, it's like seeing them and acknowledging them and, and giving them that space to have that moment of like, okay, Cindy sees me. Yeah. At least one other person sees
me. Who they genuinely are.
Yeah, who they are. Genuinely, authentically who they are. And, and with that, and as a plug, like I've been wanting to do it for years. And one of those many things I've been wanting to do.
Yep.
As I'm going to be I'm going to be starting these circles, and I'm calling them ESP circles. Of course, ESP, we think of extrasensory perception.
Okay. Yeah.
But to me, ESP is also energy, spirituality, and psi abilities or psychic gifts.
See, but it can be like a double entendre.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to be starting these circles for my clients or for whoever like is called to come, and let's talk about these things that you're experiencing on an energetic level, or maybe you're opening to your psychic intuitive gifts, or, you're having questions about spirituality, or, some people are like, they were brought up in a Christian faith, or they were brought up in this faith, but at the same time, they're like, I have these other questions, like it's no longer aligning for me. Well, yeah, let's bring Jesus into the conversation and also talk about this other thing, right?
Yes.
And so I'm really excited about, starting my own, there's a lot of circles and things out there that do that, but, I feel like it's, it's my turn to have one too.
Absolutely. You should totally have your
Yes, circle. I know.
Yes, I agree with you.
And that way, to make that more of those communities and that sort of connection and those nets and webs between people, so that they can see. And, back in the networking world, I always thought of myself as that hub, right? And I know that you and Dominika are very much like that too. And like when you meet people, you're like, oh, you should connect with so-and-so, and you should connect with so-and-so, right? Yeah. And so like I know what that feels like. And so to be able to bring people together and go, well, let's talk about these things that you don't think you can talk about with anybody else in a group setting, so you can see it safe.
That's so cool.
And that you can.
I love it. You should definitely do it.
I am doing
it.
Yep,
you should do these things that you're planning on doing. Because I'm like that too. Dominika's like that too. And once you can let it sit there and keep thinking about it, but once you start taking action, it'll happen sooner than you think.
Yes.
Like you just have to start, like this podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Do you feel comfortable talking about, you said that when you were running?
Yes.
I want to know more about that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So, yes, I would, it was funny. For years, I hated running because my knees hurt and it just wouldn't. And a friend of mine was doing a triathlon. I'm like, was a little jealous. So I'm like, I'm going to go learn how to run. Okay. And so I did. I got into, and with it, I decided to start training for a marathon.
Oh.
I know. I don't know what I was thinking. And so it's kind of strange, but I went to this marathon training thing, and they gave out this, like, I know it's going to sound weird. They gave out like this like powdered mix for energy and stuff.
That's not weird?
No, I know. Yeah. Well, the next part's going to
it's going to get weird? Okay.
And so I tried it like the next week. I did this energy mix. I didn't know what was in it. It was like protein and energy, I didn't know what was in it. Well, man, I had the best run of my life. Like it was just like, woo. And the reason is because I got, it was like a 7-mile run, and I got a couple miles into it, and all of a sudden I was like hearing things and seeing things. I was like totally like, it was like in my own fairy tale novel. I don't know how to explain it. I can't remember exactly what happened on that first run, but all I know is that there was this like, it felt like this like spiritual connection where I was being shown things, and I was being given inspiration for doing things, and like how, the work that I do or the people I connected with, I don't know. It was just really felt more energizing, and like I wanted to keep running. Because it was just like, it was like my body was out of, my body was doing its own thing, but my brain was like connected on this whole
you weren't even thinking about it.
I know. I used to call that mix for a long time my Peyote mix, because I felt like every time I would do this and go for a run, I was like, this is so awesome.
So you did it again. Okay.
I found out what it was. And it turns out I hadn't been drinking caffeine for almost 15 years. At that point, it'd been a long time. And, this mixture had about 250 milligrams of caffeine.
You got hit hard with the dose of caffeine.
So I had to go running so I could like run it and work it out of my body. Right? But I was like, I'm potentially like on a psychedelic of making, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, so from that, I eventually got to a point where, I ended up going dairy-free and gluten-free, and I couldn't do this mix anymore. And anyway, but I like trained myself to be able to have these conversations, like get into sort of a meditation, of gratitude first, and then bringing questions to my run, and like asking questions like, how do I deal with this? Or what do I want to do? Or show me this. Like, at the time, when I first moved to Seattle, my husband and I were talking about when I have kids and like, what is that going to look like? And, that's a whole nother question, story and journey of its own. But like, I had this vision of these two children and I was sitting under a tree and it was a girl and a boy, and the older one was a girl and she was kind of more goth-like and dark. And the younger one was like all running around and like running all over us and like really super energetic. And it's interesting, Marcus, because even though I have two boys, my older one, love him dearly, but he's more, I already see it.
He's that image of that girl.
He's that image of that girl where he's kind of more goth-like and kind of goes more towards the darker thoughts and energies. And my younger one is like this ball of energy light running all around us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my first one was born in 2015 and I had that vision going back to 2012. And now to look back on it and go, oh my gosh, and be able to see more detail in it and, and be able to tune into that. But so I would go on these runs and have these visions of things and like be shown past lives and be shown like how I'm holding energy in my body or how I'm doing this. Or
how does the past life thing work? How do you feel that?
Yeah. Past lives is like my whole journey with past lives is gone. It's like my current belief system in past lives is that, we think of time as linear, or a lot of people do, but it's not.
It's cyclical, isn't it? Or that's how I think of it.
But the thing is that the idea of a past life and a future life is like, they're all happening right now. It's like multiverse.
Oh, multiverse. Okay.
Yeah, very multiverse.
Yeah. Okay,
and so that's my belief system is that it's like, it's not like a linear thing where I did this like so many 100 years ago. It's like, it's happening at the same time.
Okay.
So while we're having this conversation here, there may be some other version of me that's like, I don't know, doing healing work in a tribal setting, or, talking to some high lord in a court and doing healing work. I don't know what they're doing.
I feel like dreams are like that.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you're in another reality.
Right. And a lot of times dreams will do that. They will bring to us information in a way that our mind can process it.
That's right.
And maybe it is information from another life. And the thing is that as I know that as I do my work in this life, it is shifting what's happening in the other timelines. And, and I'm in this present timeline. So this is the one I get to focus on. Sure. I could go back and jump into that timeline where I was, a high priestess and over community and, blah, blah, blah. But like, why don't I just stay in this present moment with this embodied body? And
you're here for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that idea of past lives can be helpful for people in the same way dreams can, in that you can, if our soul has been on this journey and it's been learning lessons in all these different lifetimes, that like to be able to sort of jump to a different life and go, look, what were the lessons from that life, or what were the traumas in that life that your soul is still holding on to and trying to work out and play out and solve in this one. And if there's a way for you to make movement on that, then let's do that.
Wow.
Let's like, if you're, like the idea, like I would mention witch wounds, a lot of healers, a lot of people that are drawn to the healing, they have these, like this thought of like, okay, I can't show myself. I can't talk about these things because I'm going to get burned at the stake. I'm going to get
right.
All this. And that's probably because they've had other lives as a healer, whether it was as a witch or a shaman or whatever it was. And they were burned at the stake, and because they stood up and showed themselves. And so to let them be in this lifetime and go, no, I'm not in that lifetime anymore. I know, am I really going to be burned at the stake? Or am I safe?
Right.
Again, going back to helping their central nervous system feel like they're in a safe place.
Ah, okay. It all comes full circle.
And we can release that anxiety or that energy that I'm going to be burned to the stake, drowned, my family's going to be murdered, or whatever their story is.
Whatever it may be.
Right? And that, like, no, in this lifetime, in this body, in this place, you are safe and you have a voice and you can be heard.
I love it.
And you can do your healing work and however you want to do it.
And this is what you facilitate.
Yes. Yeah. And the word, one of the words that you might start hearing in the realm of healing is remembering.
Mm-hmm.
And that we're remembering those soul journeys, we're remembering those other lives, remembering the parts of us, the gifts that we had in other lifetimes. And so it's like you remembering something, you know, you might all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, I remember this.
Mm-hmm.
And you were trying to figure out where you remember it from.
Mm-hmm.
It may not actually be from this incarnation lifetime. It may be from a different life or a different place in your soul's path. But it, like, whatever you've done, maybe the person you met or the place that you were at, like, triggers that soul remembering. And remembering is putting the members back together again, right? It's like
remembering,
like finding the pieces of you and bringing them back together again.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah.
I love it. I think with that's a beautiful ending to the conversation.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Thank you. Yes, this was amazing.
Thank you. It was amazing for me. I loved learning finally got to learn about exactly what you do.
Yes.
And I was not disappointed. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
Marcus.
Having a conversation with me.
Yes, this was incredible. I just loved it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Later, guys.
Bye.
Awesome. That was great. High five.